Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of the DAN Show. Happy Friday and welcome to my breakdown of the Los Angeles Rams. Now, if you're new to my channel, I've got one simple question to ask you. Do you want to talk football? Because if so, you're in the right place. That's the only thing we do here. There's this button right around here. See it? See it? See it? Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. Now, here's how my breakdown is going to go. I'm going to talk about what I like about the Los Angeles Rams. Then I'm going to talk about what I don't like. But stick around to the very end where I talk about the Vegas over-under and if I am going to put action down on the Rams. So, hey, let's kick this off with what I like about the Rams. The first thing I like is the offensive line. This offensive line stayed together. They gave up 22 sacks last year, and they re-signed Andrew Whitworth to a 3-year deal. Now, that kind of bothers me because Andrew Whitworth is 207 years old. I'm joking a little bit. I mean, he's probably I think he's definitely the oldest left tackle in football. It's an old saying that you want to get rid of a player 1 year too early rather than 1 year too late. Well, the Bengals got rid of Whitworth like 5 years too early. This guy's still a top 10 left tackle, and he's 207 years old. I'm teasing, obviously, but here's the thing. The Rams had one of the best offensive lines. They kept the offensive line intact during the offseason and thought that was a good move. Give him a 3-year extension because he has earned it. Even if his play slips a little bit, he's still one of the best left tackles in football. Overall, you give it 22 sacks. That's a good offensive line. Remember, you traded for Austin Corbett. This guy was the 33rd pick in the draft just a couple of years ago, and the Browns just wrote him off for I don't remember the exact trade, but it was almost nothing. You plug him in at guard, and he plays awesome right away. How do I know he played awesome? They gave up 22 sacks. That's how I know they played awesome. And he goes in as starting guard. I thought he was going to be a bench player or that slide tackle, like the sixth tackle. No, they just moved him to guard. He played awesome. Smart move by the Rams. Second thing I like about the Rams is the draft. And normally when you don't have a first-round pick, if you want to count Jalen Ramsey as one of the draft picks, then this is a super awesome draft, but let's exclude Ramsey and let's just look at what you got here. Cam Akers, I'm going to tell you something. If you're a fantasy football fan, take Akers sooner than later. He's going to be the starter sometime, and he's going to be good. This is like Todd Gurley light. He doesn't have the same type of explosiveness Gurley did, but he's going to be a really good football player. Van Jefferson, the player that you get for the Brandon Cooks trade, this is a pretty good football player. His dad played in the NFL. I think his dad's still a wide receiver coach in the NFL. I don't think the ceiling's that high. I don't think this guy's ever going to be like an all-pro wide receiver, but the floor is extremely high. So I think that you're going to get a player who's going to contribute day one and not disappoint. I don't think the game's going to be too big for him. So, yeah, it's hot in here. I'm sweating so much, and it doesn't matter, though. I'm excited to do this. But bottom line, this was a great pick. Terrell Lewis, our lads in ESPN has him as the starting outside linebacker. This is a third-round pick. Should have gone earlier. Has the athleticism to be an extremely good football player. Terrell Burgess, late in the third, he's going to play. Bryson Hopkins, late in the fourth round. Now, he's not going to be a starter at tight end, but he's going to play. He's a great fit for what the Rams do. Now, if you're going to ask him to block, he probably looked at a block at Purdue, but that wasn't what he does best. His best is just catching the ball. What do they want the tight ends to do? They're just big wide receivers in this offense. So Bryson Hopkins is going to contribute, probably not be a starter, but he's going to play quite a bit. Oh yeah, late in the seventh round, Sam Sloman, he's your place kicker. He's going to replace Greg Zuerlein. So here's a draft without a first-round pick. You get multiple starters and about 5 or 6 players who are going to contribute and I think play well in 2020. So kudos to the Rams for having a really, really good draft despite giving up their number 1 pick for Jalen Ramsey, one of the best corners in football. Third thing I like about the Rams, and this at the time people are losing their damn mind, but in 2019 the Rams gave a 4-year record-breaking contract extension, $134 million. I think it was like $110 in guaranteed money, and people are losing their damn mind. Well, let's fast forward to a year, and Patrick Mahomes gets $500 million. Okay. Now, of course, Mahomes' contract's longer, but $134 million contract versus $500 million. If you waited and you wanted to play hardball with Goff, how much money would you have to give him? How much money would you have to give him after Mahomes gets $500 million? Imagine he's not signed yet. What would he ask for? He might ask for $250 million for 5 years. Here you go. You got a quarterback locked up to 2024. You want to argue how good Goff is? I think universally everybody would consider him top 10. You get a franchise quarterback. I mean, there's no doubt that you're getting a franchise quarterback. And here you are. You have him locked up to 2024. By the time 2022 comes around, this contract's going to be like middle of the pack. More than likely 2022, 2023, they will re-sign him. But here's the drill. You got a guy in Jared Goff. You did the right thing. Look at the Dak Prescott situation. I guarantee if Dallas signs him to a long-term deal, it's going to be more for $134 million. So it's going to look like what the Rams did was smart. This is what smart organizations do. They go ahead and sign a player for looks like big time bucks. $134 million versus $500 million. Yeah, good move by the Rams. Fourth, final, and the number one thing I like about the Rams is Aaron Donald, the best defensive player in football, no question. I was kind of thinking about it. Let's say he played another 3 years at this level. Can we talk about him being maybe the best defensive lineman of all time? I mean, it's not inconceivable to talk about him being maybe one of the greatest of all time. He quits now. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's that good. He really is. He's that good. I just had him as his own separate category. So just to recap the four things I like about the Rams: great offensive line, really, really good draft, a smart move on Jared Goff's contract extension. That's what good franchises do. And yeah, Aaron Donald, the undisputed best defensive player in football. So now let's talk about what I don't like about the Rams. All right. The number one thing I don't like, and I thought about breaking this up, but I'll just put on paper they're not going to be as good as they were last year. I mean, you're losing big name players. And you're also losing big name players that had a lot of production here. Dante Fowler, Corey Littleton, Greg Zuerlein, Todd Gurley. I remember you got rid of Marcus Peters, and then the Brandon Cooks trade. Eric Weddle's retiring. Littleton had 134 tackles. I'm using the combined number, but they go by solo is how I use Pro Football Reference, if I can get that word out, as the source of what I use on my statistics, and they do it by solo. Corey Littleton's your number one tackler. He's gone. Eric Weddle, number two tackler. He's retired. Number four tackler, Dante Fowler, who's also your number two guy in sacks. He's gone. So you got a lot of players that are leaving. They nicknamed him Greg the Leg, and I had a lot of really big field goals, so that they get rid of him. I'm not going to tell you that this 7th round rookie is not going to be a good kicker, but here's the thing you don't know. Bottom line, I like what the Rams are doing. I like how they're building the roster through the draft. They had a good draft. But bottom line, if you're going to tell me that they have a more talented roster in 2020 and 2019, I'm going to say you're full of shit. I don't care. If you're the biggest Rams fan on earth, you got to look at this roster and you got to say, hey, we're not as talented. Now, can you win more games? Sure, because remember, Gurley was injured. And could you get more production from Akers in 2020 than you did from Gurley in 2019? Sure. But Gurley's a better player. And on paper, this team's not as good. It's not even a debate. So you're going from a team that's 9-7, and on paper, you're not as good. Which leads me to the second thing that I don't like, and these things go hand in hand, and that you're replacing Wade Phillips, the most experienced defensive coordinator in football, with Brandon Staley, who has the least amount of experience for a defensive coordinator. So you're going from the most experienced defensive coordinator to the very least experienced defensive coordinator. He's been in the NFL 3 years, and he's been an outside linebackers coach for 3 years. Last year, he went to Denver. Now, keep in mind, he learned under Vic Fangio, who is the oldest head coach and a very long-established linebackers coach. So I'm assuming the two of them work together, and he's got a good rapport with linebackers, and that's kind of important because you got Aaron Donald, so have a good linebackers coach, because you're going to have it looks like you're going to have a rookie, but I'm putting these two things hand in hand. You're taking a very inexperienced defensive coordinator. You're going to put him with a minimum of 3 to 4 new starters. Remember all the problems that Jalen Ramsey had. You really think he's going to respect some 38-year-old guy who's never been a defensive coordinator before? Hopefully he does, but I don't really think that replacing a defensive coordinator with the least experienced defensive coordinator. Now, keep in mind, Sean McVay, very little experience, great head coach. A lot of people are following this blueprint, but when you have a guy who's a very inexperienced head coach and he's an offensive guy, put him together with a very experienced defensive coordinator. Well, you take a guy now, I guess you want to call, because he's been with the Rams a couple of years now. You want to call him experienced, sure, but now you're putting a very inexperienced guy as defensive coordinator. I don't see how this can work out because he's got a lot of players. He's got a lot of new players. Granted, you got the best defensive player in football, but he's got 10 other positions to fill, and a lot of these positions are new. You didn't have a great defense last year, so you're taking a guy with almost no experience in the NFL. I mean, 3 years as an outside linebackers coach, and then you're going to give him a defensive coordinator position. He better be good. He better be good. He better be as good as Sean McVay is, but Sean McVays don't grow on trees, okay? So he has got to be good. So those are really the two big things I don't like, and they're two big things that I think are really going to affect the Rams in 2020. Is you got, on paper, they're not as good. They lost too many players. You lose your 2 leading sackers. You lose big names. You traded players away. Now, I like the blueprint. So if you're saying, hey, 2020, we're going to build, great. But here's a team that went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago and that barely missed the playoffs. As a matter of fact, under this format, they would be a playoff team. And I'll tell you something, if they did make the playoff, this could be a dangerous team. It really could. I mean, you got the best defensive player in football. You got a good quarterback. You got some weapons. It could be fun. But ultimately, you're a 9-7 team that got worse. And then you replace the most experienced defensive coordinator in football with the least experienced defensive coordinator in football. So good luck in 2020 for Rams fans. And I want to hear from you. If you're a Rams fan, you disagree with me, drop a comment below. Let's talk. That's the whole point of these videos, is to start a conversation about football. This is my favorite thing to do. So what I say, stick around to the very end. We'll talk about the Vegas over-under. And Vegas nailed this. The over-under is 8.5. The over is -130. So you have to wager $130 to win $100. The under is +110, which means a $100 wager will win you $110. Now, keep in mind, LA is not very far away from Vegas, so I think Vegas is always going to favor the Los Angeles Rams. It hasn't gone that way with the Chargers yet, but I think it could be, or it might be, because the number for the Chargers is 8. I think it should have been 6.5 or maybe even 7, but because it's over -130. A lot of people are betting on the over, so I'm really going to eyeball this because I think it could jump up to 9. If it jumps up to 9 and I can get a really good number, I think the under is really the play. At 8.5, I really don't know because the talent's there to go 9, but I'm not sure. And there's another thing about this schedule. They play the AFC East and the NFC East, so depending on how you want to look at it, the schedule could be favorable or not favorable. But one thing I've noticed is that they have to go to the East Coast 5 times this year. They have to play, matter of fact, their season starts off Dallas at home and then at Philly, at Buffalo, Giants at home, at Washington. So your first 3 games are on the East Coast, and they're all noon starts, so that's difficult. And then they also have to go to Miami and Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay game's the night game, the Miami game's at noon, and I don't care what you say, it's a difficult thing to go from West Coast to East Coast. Now, here's the thing, though. Late in the season, you have both the Patriots and the Jets that are coming from the East Coast to the West Coast, so that is kind of an advantage. Here's one thing I do like is that they end the season pretty well. You get at the Cardinals, Patriots and Jets at home, at Seattle, and then the Cardinals at home. So 3 out of your last 4 games are at home. 2 of them are East Coast teams, and then the Cardinals. That really, ideally, if you're a football fan, is that should be for a playoff spot. So here's the way I would look at it. If you're dying to put action out on the Rams at 8.5, I would take the under, which they have more talent than 8-18, but this team on paper is just not as good as a 9-17 last year. And you're going with a very inexperienced defensive coordinator with lots of holes and lots of new players. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. I am waiting for this to jump up to 9. I think it will hit 9. I think there'll be enough action on the over to hit 9. And then if I can still get a positive number or maybe negative 105, maybe negative 10, I'd slip a small amount on the under. But ultimately, the way things are right now, I really wouldn't touch it. But if you have to put action down on the Rams, take the under and collect. So listen, I hope you enjoyed my video. Starting Monday, it's all playoff teams. I'm very excited about it. It kicks off with Philly. So listen, have a great weekend. I will see you Monday.